Oh, hey, sorry. God, I didn't see you come in, actually. I'm just editing the latest video. Should be pretty good, I think. It's funny, actually, you coming in like that, because I was just sitting here thinking to myself, I cannot remember what day it is, you know? For the life of me, I just cannot think, what day is it? But you coming in like this just reminds me, you know? It's Tutorial Tuesdays! Welcome back to Tutorial Tuesday, where every week, every Tuesday, to be precise, you get a brand new, fresh photography tutorial. This week, we're diving into Lightroom. We're going to be talking about color grading your photos. So whether you want to give them a very stylized look or a bit more of a subtle look, we're basically talking about color. So a little bit maybe about color wheels, about complementary colors, and just generally color grading in general. So a little bit less about the kind of global editing like contrast, highlights and shadows and things like that. We will go into that a little bit because it's still important when it comes to color grading. But we're mostly going to be talking about the color wheel, HSL sliders, calibration and things like that, and the different ways that you can affect the color in your images and come out with a really nice result. So I've got a photo here. We're going to dive right in and get going. So let's into the PC. So this image was taken with the Sony 35mm f1.4. I wanted to take a slightly different image to the normal stuff I go for, so I do a lot of outside shots. I do a lot of like forest, nice landscapes, things like that. Wanted to do an indoor shot because it's just a little bit different. Plus, this actual location is perfect for this sort of stuff because, as you can see, my subject there is really nicely lit up because there's a huge window which just floods in natural light. And it just brightens up the whole place. So it's a nice, bright, airy location. It's not getting the kind of indoor light that you don't necessarily want. You're getting quite nice daylight just flooding in. So that's why we shot here. Now, we're going to color grade this. We're going to give it an orange and teal look. Now, the reason for that, you see that all over the place. You see that all over Instagram. Orange and teal, super popular. Maybe it's not for you. I totally get that. Maybe you don't want to do an orange and teal look. But if we go through how to do an orange and teal look, you could do pink and blue, you could do all kinds of different things. One of the reasons orange and teal is so popular is because they're complementary colors. You know, they're opposites on the color wheel, which means they contrast really nicely with each other. So you've got orange on one side of the color wheel and you've got teal on the opposite side of the color wheel, which means they actually complement each other very nicely. That's what we're going to do here. That's what we're going to go through, but you can apply this with any colors you like. You can do the 2 colors, you can go for 3 colors, you can go for all kinds of different stuff. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in here. We're going to go ahead and just do some basic global adjustments quickly to kind of get that down. I'm going to actually just bring the exposure down a touch because it's a little bright. I'm going to bring that contrast up a little bit. Highlights down just a touch because it's a little bit hot on her face. And shadows up as well, just to slightly bring out some of the detail in her hair and stuff like that. Whites down a touch and blacks down a touch. Texture I'm going to bring up just to bring out some of the detail and things like the chairs and other parts that we've got detail there, and clarity as well. Now vibrance I'm going to bring up, but saturation I'm going to leave as is because we're going to go through color by color and we're going to get to that in a bit. The last thing I'm going to do before we go on to color grading is I'm going to scroll down on this editing sidebar here to lens corrections. I'm going to click Enable Profile Corrections. Now that's going to remove any vignetting from the lens. It's going to remove any kind of distortion from the lens. And you can see that's made a huge difference. It's actually created a very bright image. So I'm going to come down here to Post-Crop Vignetting in the Effects tab and just bring in some of that vignette that we lost there, because I quite liked that. Just going to bring some of that in. I'm actually going to scroll right back up to the top and probably bring that exposure down just a touch again. There we go, I quite like that. Now for color grading, you can see this image is it's quite kind of magenta, it's quite pink. We're going to try and give it an orange and teal kind of look. We're going to go for that kind of thing. So we're going to scroll down here to the calibration tab right at the bottom of this editing sidebar. This is where we've got the ability to kind of calibrate our colors. So we've got red primary, green primary, and blue primary. Now this allows us to kind of correct any issues there, but it also allows us, we're going to use it to color grade our photo. So I'm going to bring the red primary here. I've got the hue and saturation sliders. I'm going to bring the hue slider over to the right. Now, as I do that, you can see my subject's skin tones. Her skin tones are kind of becoming yellowy. They don't look great like that. So don't worry, I see it as well, and we're gonna make sure we don't get any issues there. Now, I'm gonna bring that up to about plus 38. This can differ depending on the photo, but here I'm gonna come up to about plus 38. Now that doesn't look very nice. Don't worry, I see it as well. But what we're gonna do now is bring our blue primary over towards the teal side of things. And we're probably gonna go quite a lot further than we did with the red primary. So you can see as I do that, if I just do that again, as I do that, it is really enhancing those blues to become more of a teal. And the yellow skin tone and things like that, they are going back to being more orange. And we're really getting that orange and teal look to this photo. If I turn this effect on and off, if I turn it off, look how magenta it was. It was so pink. Actually, that is shocking. It was so pink. If I turn it back on, we've gone to this kind of teal and orange look. We've got this very much purposeful look to the photo. Now, we're still not done. So I'm going to come up here to the HSL tab. Now, don't worry if yours looks a little bit different. I've got it set on the color side. You can also set it to the HSL side now, which gives you the hue, saturation, and luminance separately with all the different colors there. Color just gives you the different colors to pick, and then you've got hue, saturation, luminance sliders for each color. Now that's what HSL stands for: hue, saturation, and luminance. So we're going to be able to affect all three of those for each individual color. So if we start here with the reds, we can start by affecting the hue. If I bring it over to the left, you can see that's mostly affecting her skin tones and making them not look good. But we can bring them over to the right. That's going to bring it more towards the kind of orange side of things. In this instance, it's making it a little bit more sort of yellow and sickly, and we don't want that either. I'm going to bring them a tiniest bit towards the orange, just to kind of get rid of that red tinge to the skin tones that we kind of created with the calibration color grade down there. I'm going to leave the saturation and luminance as they are. I'm going to come over to the orange. Now this one I'm going to bring down a little bit into a kind of slightly more, a richer orange, a burnt orange. The other way would be more towards the yellows. I'm going to leave the saturation it is. In fact, I might even bring it down just a touch, just to make sure that the skin tones aren't getting too crazy. The yellows, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to bring them pretty much all the way towards the orange. I really want to try and group that side of the color wheel towards the orange side, and then the other side we're going to bring it towards the kind of teal side. That's kind of what we're doing here. We're bringing everything towards those bits so that we just get the kind of two complementary colors. Now I've done that. I'm going to leave the saturation and the luminance as they are. Green, I don't think there's a lot of green in here. If I adjust that, no, there's not, but I'm going to bring it towards the yellow anyway, just to be safe. Now we get into the kind of blue side of things. So we've got the aqua side. Now again, I don't think there's a lot of aqua here. There is a little bit. There's things like the plant pot there, which is changing. I'm going to bring it just a touch towards the blue side. So that's towards the right. The left would be much more towards the kind of the green side and create kind of a turquoisey look. So I'm going to bring it just a touch towards the blue side, but I want to keep that kind of teal look. I'm also going to bump the saturation up a little bit and just bring down the luminance, because that's going to richen that color. Now blue, I'm going to push that over towards the teal side, which is towards the left. You can see if I push that all the way over, it goes a bit crazy. The other way is towards a kind of slightly more purple side. So I'm going to push it towards the teal side. Again, I'm going to bring the saturation up, and I'm going to bring the luminance down a little bit. Now purples and magenta, I don't think we've got a lot there. We've got a little bit on that back wall with the purple. So if I bring the hue over towards the blues, that's going to kind of get rid of the magenta-y, purpley look to it. And actually this final one, magenta, there's not a lot there. So we're not going to worry too much about that. Now you can see, again, that has made a huge difference to the look of our image. If I turn that on and off, that was what it was before, and that's what it was afterwards. So we've really changed the oranges, the yellows, and even the blues. So let's go off again and on. We've really started to push this now to our kind of orange and teal look. In fact, let's go a totally before and after again. So this is before we started editing this photo. Look how magenta it was. It was kind of, yeah. And then after we've gone very much orange and teal. Now the next step we can do to apply a little bit of an orange and teal grade, or any other colours, we can come down to here to the split toning tab, which is just below the HSL tab. Now this allows us to put a colour into the highlights and a colour into the shadows. And we can affect the saturation of those colours as well. So in the highlights, I want to put orange and put teal into the shadows. Now a good tip here for really making sure you're getting the right colour there, if you can't see it on this little slider because it is quite small, you can just bump the saturation all the way up. Then as you're moving this around, you're really going to see what colour you're adding. So you can come over here to orange. I want to have a slightly more, that'll probably do actually. Let's bring that down to a much more reasonable level. And then in the shadows, let's pop that on the kind of teal side of things and let's bump that up as well. Now if I turn that on and off, that's off, that's on, it's very, very, very subtle, which is all I really want. I don't want to go crazy with this, but it just gives a slightly filmic look to the image, which is really nice. It kind of gives it a slightly, almost like a cinematic kind of feel to things. Now, that's essentially the color grade for that photo. If I do a before and after, that was before and that's after. We can do this with lots of different colors. And there's lots of more things we can do, we could add to it. So for example, we could come up here to the filters, and I'll do a whole video on the filters because they're actually a really powerful tool. But the graduated filter here, I can click on that. I can set different settings to then use like a graduated filter that you put over your lens. So going from strong to weak and essentially clear, but with different settings. So not just like an ND filter. So I can use exposure and I can use temperature, color temperature to really do that. So for example, if I wanted to make it look like there was sunlight, kind of golden sunlight coming in from the left, I could have this graduated filter. So that's what we're doing here. Pop a bit of exposure and a little bit of warm color temperature and just drag that in from the left. And you can see it feathers it out, much like a graduated ND or something like that. It feathers it out and we end up with this kind of warm look from the left. And then if you wanted to have a contrasting color, I could do the same thing, get a graduated filter. Let's get rid of the exposure this time and bring it down to the cooler side and bring it in from the right. And have this very contrasting color across the image. So we've got orange on the left, blue on the right. That looks pretty cool. Now that's leaning very much more to the stylized side of things, but I think it's pretty cool. If you're gonna go in for that full color grade, why not go all in and do something like this? Now I've already edited this picture with a blue and pink kind of color grade as well. So I'm gonna show you that now. I'm gonna reset this whole image and let's pop it onto pink and blue. So you can see what a difference that is in terms of color grading. I've gone for a much more kind of accentuating those magenta colors, the pink colors that we had, and also then dialed in some more of that kind of teal color, the blue color. And that calibration tab, the HSL tab, they're so powerful when it comes to color and affecting your colors. So I'm going to show you again just on a landscape, just to give you an idea of how far we can come here. So I've got this nice picture of St. Paul's Cathedral in London. Now the very first thing I need to do here is pop on the enable profile corrections to get rid of any distortion and vignetting and things like that. And then I need to come down here to the transform tab because my perspective is all weird, it's all warped. And it's because I'm holding the camera pointing up. I'm gonna go ahead and click auto. And Lightroom, you can see Lightroom's done such a good job there of just fixing that perspective and giving us a nice straight on kind of look to the image. Lightroom's actually done a particularly good job there. It's usually pretty good, but that is pretty much spot on. Now let's just do a very, very quick global edit to this picture. So let's bring the exposure up, the contrast, let's bring those highlights right the way down so we can see more of the image, and the shadows I'm going to bring up as well so we can see a little bit more of that cathedral. Now I'm going to pump the texture and the clarity up a little bit, and the vibrance I'm just gonna pop up a little bit as well. Now we can come down to the calibration where I can bring the red primary over a little bit towards the orange, which you can see is mainly affecting that sky there. but the blue primer I can bring right down into the teal, which is giving us this really nice sky. The sun looks great, those kind of highlights look great, and the blue in the sky looks really nice as well. Coming up to the HSL again, we can pop the orange, the hue down a little bit, just to kind of give us that really rich sunset, the yellows as well. And then the kind of aqua, I think it's really mainly just in the top of the sky there, but we can leave that as it is. Just bring the saturation up a little bit and the luminance down. And the same with the blues. Let's bring the saturation up and the luminance down. That just gives us a little bit more of the sky to see. We can actually see that blue sky up there. Now, even just that, let's do it before and after. So before and after. And that was what? A couple of minutes of editing? So that color grade there, what a difference, you know? And that's a much more subtle kind of teal and orange look. We didn't go as hard as we did in the last image, but it's created a really nice look to this image. Let's pop a little bit of orange into the highlights there using the split toning tab. That's really brought out that sky. And then in the shadows, we can pop a bit of teal, just giving us a nice bit of color contrast on that, on the cathedral there. I mean, look at the highlights on the side of this cathedral coming out with the orange from the sky. It's beautiful. And if you look at those colors, we changed them so much. So you can do so much with color grading in Lightroom. There is really no limit to where you can go with it. And you can really bring out the best. You can bring out like autumn, you can bring out kind of those autumnal colors and make things more sort of the reds and oranges. Summer and spring, you can go for the kind of greens and things like that. But you can really affect the, I guess, the emotion of your image. You know, the kind of final look and the feel of your image. And if you do it subtly, it doesn't necessarily look like you've gone crazy and made this crazy stylized look. It just enhances what you want the image to feel like as an end result. Now, I hope you found all of that helpful. If you do have any questions about any of this, pop them down in the comments below. I'd love to hear any thoughts you have as well about color grading, or any tips you might have that you've picked up along the way while doing this. If there's anything you'd like to see in a future Tutorial Tuesday, make sure to pop it down there as well, because they come out every week. And you know what? Can't think of every single one, so I'd love to hear if you want a particular one. Pop them down there, that would be great. Make sure to subscribe as well. We've got loads of content. We've obviously got these every Tuesday, as it says in the name, but of course we've got reviews, we've got all kinds of different things as well, so it's definitely worth subscribing if you're new. Make sure to like the video as well, because that helps us out and I appreciate it. I appreciate every single person who does it. As I've said in every video, I appreciate everyone just for coming along, but I appreciate it a little bit more if you like the video, so that would be great. And of course, thanks for watching.